Have you ever stopped to think who really watches you on social media? Because not everyone who follows you just wants to see your photos. Some are just waiting for the right moment. They don't comment. They don't like it. They just watch, in silence, as if they were hunting. Have you ever received that strange notification? A name you've never seen, an empty profile, no photo, no friends, but who only follows you? That's how it started. Your Observador 00 started following you. The notification appeared at 3:17 a.m. Carla woke up to the screen light flashing in the dark room. A little drowsy, she took out her cell phone, unlocked it, and for a moment he thought it was just another bot. But there was something strange. This profile seemed to have a presence, an intention, a cold, calculated name, as if someone was playing with the idea of being seen, without being identified. Carla was like a lot of people you know, or maybe like you. He was 26 years old. I worked. From home with graphic design, coffee in your favorite mug, a cat with a weird name, daily stories about routine, light rants and photos with pastel filters. Nothing else, nothing that would attract attention, right? On Tuesday night, after a tiring day, she posted an ordinary selfie with the caption, "Peace on me." It was just one more moment among many, just another image on a feed that no one really pays attention to, but someone did. And that's when everything started to change. Observador 0 did not have a profile image. He had no followers, and it followed just her. At first, Carla didn't care, but that same morning, he liked all her photos. All. Even the oldest ones, those forgotten at the bottom of the profile from years ago. The ones that not even she remembered were still there. And in one of them he commented, in just a few words, but words that didn't make sense, not unless he had been there. "You seem so carefree here." It was a photo taken in front of her house, a completely random image, any day. But how did he know? How did he know where it had been taken? Her stomach went cold. The mind started to search everything again. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe it was someone she knew with a different profile. But something inside her already knew. It wasn't. In the following days, the notifications continued. Profiles with strange names, always without an image, always following only her. A silent pattern, suffocating, obsessed, and getting closer and closer. Have you ever had this feeling? That someone is analyzing you behind the screen, not for fun, but with a purpose, coldly, with planning. Most people think they are safe digitally, but what they forget is that for someone patient, someone calculating, social networks are like a map, an open diary, a timeline of everything you do, where you are, who your friends are, what your schedule is, your habits, your weaknesses. And psychopaths love maps. They don't act in a hurry, they wait. I was observing. They test limits, and when you finally realize, it's already too late. Carla started to feel this in her body, a constant shiver, as if something was always lurking, all the time. But this story hasn't even gotten to the most disturbing part yet. What happened next? It made her rethink the whole idea of privacy, security, of sanity, and the worst of all, she wasn't the only one. Are you ready to see where this goes? Because this next detail will make you think twice before posting anything tonight. If you're here until now, maybe it's because you also feel that the world has more secrets than it seems. And if stories like this make sense to you, is it better to stick around, and how? Subscribing and leaving a like. Because what comes next is even more disturbing. She stared at the comment for a few seconds, as if trying to make sense of it that her mind refused to accept. The caption was common. The image seemed harmless. It was just an old selfie taken in low light in front of the house on a random late afternoon. But the comment sounded too intimate, almost as if it were written by someone who was there, at that exact moment the photo was taken. That was what really upset her. That didn't seem like a bot thing, not even from a hater. That had presence. She closed the app, pushed her phone away, and tried to carry on with the night normally. But the line, "You seemed so carefree here," kept echoing. Inside her head, as a threat disguised as a casual observation, like a provocation made with a cold smile. One of those phrases that don't say everything but suggest too much. And in the world of psychopaths, that's a weapon. Ambiguity is a game. Emotional control, a form of invisible domination. The next morning, she woke up before her alarm clock went off. I had slept poorly. My body felt tired, heavy, and there was restlessness on my skin, as if she were being watched by something she couldn't see but was there, always there. When unlocking the cell phone, another warning, another profile. Same pattern, 0 followers, no image, just followed her. And the name? Aponto Sigo. One more notification, another like on a forgotten photo. One more subtle comment, but enough to get you off your feet. Do you still live here? There were no hashtags. There was no active location. But he knew. I knew where she was. I knew that was her home. I knew she was reading it at that moment. And that was the scariest part. The awareness of time. Psychopaths don't just want to cause fear. They want you to feel like you've lost control. And Carla was starting to lose it. She didn't tell anyone. Yet. Because no one would believe it. Because the digital world is, for many, just entertainment. But for some minds, cold, calculating, obsessed minds, it is a hunting field. And the victims don't even know they are being persecuted, at least not until it's too late. At the end of the afternoon, she went out to buy bread at the bakery on the corner, a simple routine. But as he turned the street, he felt a chill run down his spine. On the other side of the sidewalk, a man stood, hoodie, low look. But even from afar, she felt the discomfort. He had his cell phone in his hands, pointed at her, pretending to type or maybe recording. She quickened her pace, heart racing, and quickly entered the bakery. He bought what he needed and came back without looking back. But when he got home, he found another notification, another profile, another comment, the same pattern as always. This time, the name was even more direct, Ate observe hoye, and the comment was crystal clear. The red blouse suits you well. She hadn't posted any photos wearing that outfit. I hadn't made stories. No one had taken a photo of her that day, at least no one that she knew of. But the comment was there, public, visible, and what was worse, thought. None of it seemed random. Everything indicated a plan, a script being followed step by step. Someone was deciding when to show up, when it disappears, when to poke, when to observe. She locked the doors. He closed the windows. He turned off the Wi-Fi. But it was no use. The feeling of being watched didn't come from the house. It came from the body itself, as if he had already invaded more than the digital space, as if it had already infiltrated in routine, in confidence, in mind. In the following days, profiles continued to appear, one after another, always with subtle, threatening, symbolic names. Ilinhatensa, Evazamento controlado, Anao wakabu ainda. Each one left just 1 or 2 interactions and then disappeared. But never really, because someone else always came along, always following just her. And each new profile seemed to understand more about your life. They knew when she left, when he came back, when I slept late, when I left the living room light on. One of them commented on a photo of the cat. He always looks out the window before you notice. And she remembered. She remembered the nights when the cat, out of nowhere, would stare at the glass, meowing softly as if he was seeing something she couldn't see, as if he sensed a presence out there, invisible but constant. And when she looked, nothing, just the dark. But now she was sure that the dark wasn't empty. Carla started researching, searched forums, subreddits, digital communities where stories like this were shared. And he found other women, from different cities, different ages, but all describing the same pattern: mysterious profiles, methodical behavior, digital appearances with cold phrases, and one persistent feeling that someone was getting closer and closer. Some had gone to the police, But without proof, without direct threats, it all just seemed like digital paranoia. No investigation went forward. No complaints were taken seriously. Social media, after all, is grey territory. And psychopaths know this. They operate in the shadow of legality. They know how much they can squeeze without breaking, and they love to watch the victim trying to look normal while falling apart inside. That's when Carla understood. He wasn't just a stalker. It was someone who I studied every detail of her life. That collected information, which created different profiles for each phase of the plan. That appeared when she let her guard down, and it disappeared when she started to get suspicious. She tried to block it, delete Instagram, create another. But every time I came back, even with another name, another email, another number he found, somehow he always found it. It was as if the objective wasn't just to observe, was install fear, root paranoia, stay inside her head, because psychopaths are not content to scare. They want to inhabit you. And it was that night, as she was trying to sleep, and the intercom rang for the third time without anyone answering, that she realized maybe it wasn't just digital anymore. Maybe he wasn't just following anymore. Maybe now he was already inside. The next morning, the sun hadn't even broken through the clouds when Carla left the house. The street was quiet, almost deserted. Just the typical sounds of a suburban neighborhood beginning to awaken. Gates opening, hurried footsteps on wet asphalt, the distant sound of a motorbike passing leisurely. She decided to go to the bakery. She needed bread, coffee, and maybe some fresh air to try and breathe out that growing tension that was building up inside her. But as he turned the corner, he felt that familiar shiver. Not the kind of cold that the wind causes, but that strange, instinctive chill that runs up your back when something just, it's not right. On the other side of the street, a man, property, standing still as if the world around him didn't affect him. He was wearing a dark sweatshirt with the hood covering part of his face. There was no visible expression, but the eyes, even from a distance, carried something. Chilling, eyes fixed, intentional. He held his cell phone at chest level as if typing something, but without rushing. There was no hurry in his movements, not nervous, nothing. He just stared at her, and when she looked at him directly, he looked away, like he doesn't want to get caught. As if I were playing a game where every second was calculated. One mind game. A game of dominance. Carla felt her stomach tighten. The step hesitated, but she didn't want to show fear. I didn't want to give in. He took a deep breath, crossed the street and headed towards the bakery. Inside, as the attendant put the bread in the bag, she tried to hide the slight tremor in her hands. Had he followed her? Was it still out there? Was that paranoia? But how could it be paranoia if the comments on social media kept coming? If new profiles appeared every time she created a new one? If the words left in the photos were always precise, as if they were whispers coming from the darkness? Back at home, she sat on the couch and picked up her cell phone, heart racing, sweat in the palms of your hands. Notifications, 2. A like on an old photo, a direct message. He opened it with trembling fingers. It was another new profile. The name this time was straightforward. E nunca saia sozinha. No images. I only followed one person, Carla. The message simply said, "The red blouse suits you well." She froze. She looked at herself. She was, in fact, wearing a red blouse. But I hadn't taken any photos. I hadn't made stories. I hadn't sent a photo message to anyone. That outfit had only been seen in the street. His entire body froze. A numbness took over his chest, as if the air had completely disappeared. This was no longer just digital invasion. It was physical, in person, real. Someone was watching her. Someone followed her. Someone knew exactly what she was wearing and decided to turn that information into a silent threat. She ran to the window, opened the curtains violently. The street was empty. The same silence as always. But the world never looked the same again. Even the wind shaking the trees now seemed hostile. Even the sound of a gate closing made her jump on the couch. Home is no longer home. It became a psychological battlefield. That night she didn't sleep. He sat on the living room floor with the lights off and his cell phone in his hands, observing the profile. Clicked on details. No posts, of course. But the account had been created that morning, a few hours before the message. Time matched the moment she left home. Coincidence? No. This was methodical, was calculated, era psychological. She remembered all the reports she had read online, similar cases, women who had gone through eerily similar experiences, profiles that appeared out of nowhere, always empty, always observing, commenting, disappearing. Some said it was just a troll, others claimed that it was a kind of digital sect, a modern cult based on obsession and surveillance. But the theory that haunted her most was that of a woman who said the following: they choose someone, one at a time. They start by observing, then controlling, and finally entering your life. They don't just want to see, they want to shape your reality. And Carla was starting to believe that was true. She no longer felt in control of her own routine. She no longer knew if she was being herself or if she was just acting as her fear allowed her to. The control that profile had over her wasn't physical, it was mental. It was emotional. This is what makes psychopathic manipulation so powerful. It happens silently, without forcing, without shouting, but occupying every corner of the victim's mind until there is nothing left. In the early hours of the morning, around 3:19 a.m., she received another notification, another account, another strange name, a Psychopaths de Olhar. This time there was no comment. There were no likes, just the notification that the profile had started following her. But the most bizarre thing, it's just that the cell phone froze for a second after that. The screen flickered, and when he came back, the new account's profile photo showed the same facade as her house, the same color, same grid, same rusty gate in the lower right corner. The image was not clear, it was grainy, trembling, as if it had been taken in a hurry, or hidden, as if someone had taken that same night. She no longer knew which was worse, the profile itself, or the certainty that someone was out there. Someone who wanted her to know she was being watched. Someone who made a point of showing that he could invade any space in her life, physical or digital, and leave without leaving a trace. Fear is no longer subjective. Now it was palpable. It was physical. It was present in every corner of the house, in every movement of the curtain, in the sound of the creaking floor in the hallway. And it didn't matter how much she locked the doors. What was coming in? I didn't need a key. She didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Because how can you explain something like this? How do you convince someone that they are being hunted by profiles that no one can track? Why are you being watched by someone who never appears on camera? How to say that a look on the street, a like on Instagram, an unanswered message can be the beginning of a cycle of psychological terror? What she didn't know yet was that photo of the house's facade, it wasn't new. It had been posted by someone else, months before, by someone who also received strange comments, by someone who also tried to block it, by someone who was never seen again. She typed with trembling, almost desperate fingers, looking for the profile that had followed her throughout the morning. But the account disappeared, as if it had never existed. There was no longer any trace of Psychopaths de Olhar. No likes, no comments, no shared followers. Nothing. As if that had been a hallucination. But it wasn't. She knew what she had seen. The image of the facade of his house, the notification, the username. Everything still echoed like a scream inside his mind. She barely had time to process it when a new notification arrived. A new profile. Same pattern. Even empty. Same threatening silence. But the name this time seemed even more direct, almost like a warning whispered in the dark. Yolo sabertos datit tu. Carla felt a chill run down her spine, as if something had walked inside her. Opened the profile. Again, no image, no description, no followers. And guess what? Only followed one account, hers. There was no direct interaction yet, no likes, no comments. But the name alone was a message, eyes open, as if he were there, watching, waiting, as if to say, "I see you, even when you don't see anything." At this point, Carla could no longer pretend that she was dealing with something normal, and it was at that moment that she did what perhaps she should have done earlier. She started researching. He searched forums, private groups, profiles of people who talked about strange experiences on the networks. He delved deep into subreddits, where stories about digital stalking and ghost profiles circulated like urban legends. But there, hidden among so many theories and reports, Carla found something that made her blood run cold. Other women, from different places of different ages, different professions, were reporting exactly the same pattern. Empty profiles, recently created, strange names with subliminal messages, following only them. Always them. Starting with old likes, then cryptic comments, and finally or disappearance. Not from the profile, theirs. These women's posts would suddenly stop. The stories disappeared. Friends reported that they could no longer contact each other. Numbers disconnected. Empty houses. No one knew exactly what had happened, but they all had something in common. Before disappearing, they complained about profiles like this. Profiles that they continued in silence. Profiles that invaded routine. Without breaking down any doors, profiles that knew where they were, what they were wearing, what they said, and when they were alone. Carla felt her stomach turn. This was real. She wasn't the first. And if I didn't do something, it wouldn't be the last either. So he took a deep breath and decided to do what most people would do. He picked up the phone and called the police, explained everything. From the first profiles, the comments, the presence on the street, the photo of the house, to the discovery of other cases. On the other end of the line, the attendant listened silently. For a second, she thought he was taking it seriously. But then came the answer, a dry laugh. Those who don't hide their contempt. What are you afraid of? Too many likes? No, that's not it. I'm talking about persecution, presence, indirect threats. Ma'am, if there was no direct threat, we can't open a case. That's an internet thing. Maybe you should get off the internet for a bit. They hung up. No registration, no help, without even the benefit of the doubt. And that's exactly what manipulative minds want most, for the victim to appear exaggerated, emotional, hysterical. Let no one believe her, because psychological terror leaves no visible marks. He acts from within. And when Carla hung up the phone, she understood that she was alone. The next morning, she tried to carry on with her life as if nothing had happened. He forced himself to go out, breathe, buy something at the market. Pretended normality. But when he returned home and approached the car, his heart stopped. The passenger window was broken, shrapnel everywhere. Nothing was stolen, nothing was out of place, except for a sheet of paper folded on the bench. With shaking hands, she picked it up. The paper was crumpled, stained with moisture, but the handwriting was precise, organized, straight, written in black pen with fine, firm letters. The note said, "You blocked me, but I never unfollowed you." She almost dropped the note. The brain tried to reject it as real, but the body was already in panic. The legs lost strength, his hands began to sweat, and his eyes searched for any strange movement around him. None, just the wind, just emptiness. But she knew. He had been there, within her space, inside the car, too close. The note was clear. He knew she tried to escape. Who tried to cut the cycle? But he also made it clear. He hadn't left the scene. I was more present than ever. Carla ran home and locked herself in. All locks, curtains closed, phone off. But none of that helped. Because the problem wasn't physical access, it was mental access. He already lived inside her mind. Every step was now guided by fear. Every notification was a threat. Every sound outside was a sign that something was wrong, or worse, what something was about to happen. That night, she deleted her accounts, deleted applications, broke her cell phone chip. He thought that maybe digital silence would bring peace. But that's when he discovered the worst part. Silence is where he likes to act most. That's where he hides, where he breathes, where he builds the next phase of the plan. Because psychopaths are in no hurry. They feed on your attempt to escape, of your attempt to forget. They love watching you try to rebuild your routine, your calm, your sanity, because they know that at some point you will let your guard down, and that's exactly where they appear again. Carla spent the whole night awake. No sound, no light. With a broomstick resting on the door handle back against the wall, cell phone turned off, but still, I felt it, as if he were out there, observing, waiting. And then, around 4 a.m., he heard something. A snap. Live. Coming from the living room window. The same window where the cat always meowed. But this time, there was no cat sound. Just silence. And that snap. As if something was being pressed against the glass. Or someone. Some people can't stand this kind of story. But if you're still here, maybe you'll see the world with different eyes, and maybe you want to know more. Have you ever received a strange follower who made you uncomfortable? Tell us in the comments. Your report could become the next case. The crack was subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to awaken a deep terror in Carla's body. She remained motionless for a few seconds, her heart pounding her chest as if trying to escape on its own. It was dark. The entire house was plunged into a dense, suffocating silence. She held her breath as if even the air could give her away. The sound was not repeated, but the tension, it didn't move. It stayed there, hovering in the air, glued to the walls, stuck to the skin. He got up slowly, with the care of someone afraid that even their steps would reveal their location. With each movement, the wood of the floor creaked, as if complaining about her presence there. He walked to the living room window with his cell phone in his hand, but without the courage to turn on the light. He placed the side of his face against the cold wall and peered through the cracks in the curtain. Outside, nothing. No silhouette, no figure. Just the street in darkness, lit by a single flashing streetlight. But she knew. I knew there was someone watching, someone very close. She didn't see anything, but she felt it. He felt the same thing he had been feeling for days, the constant presence. It was no longer paranoia, it was a pattern, an unhealthy routine built to perfection, the obsession of a psychopath, the silent ritual of a predatory mind, a control cycle that would not be broken by blocking number changes or deleted profiles. This went beyond digital. It was psychological. It was physical. It was as if he had infiltrated every layer of her life, invisible, unbreakable. In the following days, Carla isolated herself completely, deleted all social media, changed number. He blocked all contacts he didn't know, changed your routine. He started ordering everything for delivery. I didn't even go out on the balcony anymore, but at night it was always the same hell. Around 3 in the morning, the intercom rang. Once, 2. And when she answered on the other end, nobody. No voice, no words, just breathing, long, creeping, as if he was trying to say something without saying it, as if just the sound of his presence was enough to torment her. One night she didn't answer. He tried to ignore it, even though the intercom was ringing non-stop for 2 minutes. She sat on the bathroom floor, hugging her knees, trying to control her breathing, trying to convince herself that it was just someone making a prank call. But she knew. And the worst part, he also knew that she knew. She knew that fear consumed her from the inside out, and that was what fueled the game. Because in a psychopath's game, the victim's silent suffering is the true trophy. Carla installed cameras around the house, lights with motion sensors, alarms. None of that helped. A few early mornings later, he received an email. No subject, no text, just an attached image, a photo, taken from outside the house. Through the bedroom window, it showed her sleeping, the face partially covered by the blanket. The lamplight was on, the same one I left on for safety, and there she was, captured in a moment of absolute vulnerability. The sender was a name she had never seen, an email created on the same day, probably deleted afterwards. The pattern was always the same. A mind that operated like a machine, cold, calculated, methodical. Carla went to the camera recordings, but there was nothing. Nothing was recorded. It was as if he knew where the blind spots were. as if he had studied every inch of the house, as if I had been there before, several times. She took the image to the police. He showed the evidence. He told it all over again, in more detail. The police officer this time was more serious. He took the information, said they would investigate, that they would open a bulletin. But deep in his eyes she realized what she already knew. No one could protect her, because no one could understand what she was going through. It was a faceless terror, a predator without footprints, a bloodless crime, but with deep scars. A week later she received an envelope, no sender, placed under the door. Inside, just a printed sheet, a list. Simple, direct, with Instagram usernames. All the profiles that had appeared in her notifications in the last few weeks, one by one, as if it were a catalogue of victims, a memorial of obsession, an archive of the chase. She recognized each name. But what scared her most wasn't seeing the ones she had already seen. Went to see those I didn't know. Names of profiles that never interacted with her, but that appeared there. At the end of the list, the last name, hers. But there was something even more sinister. Below her name, there was one more name. A name that was not part of her life. A name she had never seen before. But it was there, printed, coolly fitted beneath yours. Yours. Yes. The name of whoever is watching this story right now. As if you were next. As if, somewhere, he was already watching you too. Waiting for you to take the next step. Waiting for you to let your guard down, because after all, do you really know who is following you now, if you made it this far? It's because you know there's something wrong with the digital shadows, and if you've been through something similar, or know someone who has experienced something strange, silent, that no one could explain, comment below. I already felt like I was being watched. Believe me, this can open the eyes of other people who still think they are safe. Leave a like if you still have the courage to sleep peacefully tonight, and sign up now, because this is not the kind of story you find out there. This is happening closer than you think. And if you found this story disturbing, wait until you hear the case of the influencer who disappeared without a trace and left only a mysterious recording as a clue. This video is appearing on the screen now, but watch it with the lights on. Believe me, you will understand why.